centavos en mi bolsa.
And every time I thought that I was wrong,
dokie. Hi, everybody. Third stream of the day. Again. Dick Cheney's oil money. Thank you for the 26 months. Dan. What's up, Dan TC? I wonder why Dan TC's in here today. I wonder what's going on. iBud, thank you for the 13 months. Steenie, thank you for the gifted. Yeah, so next was fun, wasn't it? Oh, boy. Seems like a good day for the Comedy Roundtable finally. Well, we ended up watching the Comedy Roundtable, so it no longer could be a meme. Anywho, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? What is up? What is up? I will tell you. Okay, this eyelash is just like fucked up. You know, it's been a long day when the lashes are just starting to come off. Raise go live notification. I know, I saw that. I was like, oh, yeah, no, she clearly doesn't know what's going on. Caroline, I was thinking about you when the news was coming out. I knew you want to talk about it while sponsored. Yeah, I'm going to be so for real. Today was it was like so bizarre because yeah, first of all, read the pin post, please. Read the pin post. You know how it goes. You know how it goes. Before I launch into what I was going to say, just a reminder, it's not that you owe empathy and compassion to people who had none for others, but please do not say things publicly that will get you banned, or worse. Anyway, okay. So I was outside. We had just gone to lunch after the first part of Next because it's two-parters. So we did the morning show, and we had gone to lunch. Vanilla Mace had just gotten there because she was going to be the co-host for the afternoon. I went outside just to get some air, and I opened my phone and I saw messages in my family's group chat about Charlie Kirk getting shot. And so I immediately went on the internet. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? And I went into the main room, like the green room where everyone was hanging out. And I went, holy shit, did you guys? And everyone was like, yes. Like everyone basically became aware at the same time. And so we pulled up Hassan's stream. He was watching the news, obviously. We just like pulled it up on the main TV, and everyone was just sitting around, like all of us in the cast, like people who work on the show. It was like, I cannot tell you how just bizarre it was. I mean, just aside from what happened, which also, though, is it really that crazy? Because this is the United States of America where people are shot all the time. So Charlie Kirk is just another victim of gun violence in this country. That's really what it is, you know? Anyway, so it was like processing like what was happening, but also the fact that like everyone was sitting there just going, oh my God. And we just all, they were like serving lunch. They were serving lunch and nobody could eat. We were just glued to the TV, watching what was happening. What happened? Well, we're talking about it right now. TLDR, Charlie Kirk was at the University of Utah, I think it was. And he was doing Utah University, and he was there for an event. which he does. He goes around. He did go around to college campuses and speak to college students, and he's very effective. Has a lot of fans, and he was assassinated. He was killed, and the video of it very quickly made the rounds on social media. And here's what I will say too. I think two things can be true. I think that video can be shocking, and it is incredibly gruesome. And you just like, because Charlie Kirk has been such a prominent figure and we see so much of him, and, you know, not just a lot of people knowing who he is, but also him being like in the content creator space. There was also something about that. So it can be true that, and it was true that it was incredibly horrifying, and really violent, but also that we see so much violence every single day. And I do think that it is telling people who are reacting to this. Like I saw Abby Phillips say, like, this is so inappropriate. Can somebody on Twitter turn down the dial? I can't believe this video of Charlie Kirk being assassinated is making the rounds. And it's like, do you not see the same videos and footage and photos of like beheaded children, of like people, like Palestinians being decimated every day, like lit on fire, decapitated, mass murdered? Like, so basically what I'm saying is that video is shocking, and it is so violent, and it's just, you can't believe, like, you just can't believe that happened too, although you also can because it's America, but also just how much violence we are seeing every single day that either people are desensitized to, they don't care about, or they somehow just don't see. It is fucking surreal. And then it's also true that all of this is like shocking, but also none of it is shocking because we live in such a violent country that we are responsible for violence every single day. Is it valid to be scared by what happened? Absolutely. And I'll talk about that too. Imagine that happening to children. That happens to children in schools all the time. In fact, what's so fucked up about this country is that as the media shitstorm was occurring in the wake of Charlie Kirk being shot, 3 students were shot at a Colorado high school. There was a school shooting. There was a school shooting that was like not given any attention whatsoever because it's just another school shooting in America, but also because Charlie Kirk was shot at the university where he was visiting. That it's so many levels of dystopic. Like it's so many levels of dystopic. Like as the news was breaking, you cannot wrap your head around it. Same city where Columbine happened. Yes. 2.5 decades ago, where we had what was really kind of the beginning of the never-ending mass shootings in the United States of America, with kids just getting blown apart. And you know the other thing, the video about Charlie Kirk, that's what happens to kids in schools. You just don't see those videos. You think about Sandy Hook, and I know it's really hard to think about Sandy Hook, but you need to understand that it happens to kids every single day. This is happening to children in Palestine. This is happening to children in elementary schools in the United States. You think about Uvalde. Yeah. The difference is that you didn't see those photos. And also because politicians don't give a fuck. They're flying the flags at half mast. You have the New York Yankees with a picture of Charlie Kirk up at the stadium. Kids are killed every day in this country. Kids are being killed every day in Palestine. They don't give a fuck. They don't. Mind you, and that as well. The reaction to Melissa Hortman. Melissa Hortman, who was a member of the Minnesota House of Representatives, who was murdered in cold blood along with her husband. And it barely made a blip. The media didn't give a shit. Republicans were making jokes about it, literally jokes. Randy Fine or Mike Lee or all of the above, joking in the most sickening ways. That happened. Was there any attention, any concern, any calls for justice, any of that? Any this is war? So I know it's been said a million times, the hypocrisy, the double standard, and we're so past that. I know, where we are at is so far past this kind of conversation. They keep blaming the left. Of course they're blaming the left. And that's why, here's the thing. First of all, any speculation about the shooter, I genuinely think we should not be doing. One, because it always is going to turn into finding a way to blame trans people. Okay, so any speculation at all feeds the overall speculation. Also, the speculation doesn't matter because it's the reaction and it's who controls the narrative and who's in power and what they do with that power. When something like this happens, it doesn't fucking matter if the shooter turns out to be somebody who was pissed that Charlie Kirk turned his back on exposing the deep state and Jeffrey Epstein because of his allegiance to Trump, or because Charlie Kirk looked like he was starting to turn on Israel. Whatever the fucking reason is, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's how this is just, it's just how this violence occurs so often and how that is used in the ways that we've already seen it. Okay, so sending the military in, saying that we're going to take guns away from trans people, probably going to just get to the point of making being trans illegal. All of these ways to further attack and just make people's lives that much more miserable. And CNN was doing that. Of course CNN was doing that. Honestly, of course. See, I've seen people across the fucking spectrum doing the speculation game as if it's going to change anything dependent on who the shooter is. You know? So yeah, I completely understand people who are saying I'm scared. You're scared because it is scary. You're scared because of this insanity that we live in every single day. You're scared because of how normalized this violence is. And here's the other thing too. It's we always talk about political violence has no home here. Whether it's liberals saying that or the rare Republican who's not choosing to just completely make this about the violent left. Political violence is happening all the time. Political violence is not just Charlie Kirk getting shot. Political violence is people being denied healthcare and dying from that, dying in the richest nation in the world. Political violence is is people on the streets who are being further abused, who are being denied the help that they need. Political violence is genocide that's happening in Palestine. Political violence is ICE coming into our communities and ripping families apart. Political violence is anti-trans legislation. It's all political violence. And yet the political violence term gets thrown around in not all mass shootings also. Not all mass shootings. A lot of mass shootings at this point, we just kind of, it's stuff like this, right? It's when Donald Trump gets
Caroline.
shot.
Those
It's when Charlie Kirk is killed.
Screaming for blood and vengeance before we even profile the shooter.
I know. Hog Trucker, thank you for the 15 months. Cole Wonder, thank you. Because the state defines what is violent, absolutely. And the way that this violence is then treated is with more violence. So, okay. All of the takes, I know. I get it. I get it all. I get the like, oh, you know, Charlie Kirk's rhetoric, like what Charlie Kirk was a part of, the systematic violence that he sought to uphold and to worsen. Like, yes. I still think that if you saw what happened and it was horrifying, that is very normal and that is okay to feel that way and to feel scared. And I'm going to be honest, like sitting around all of us when we were there.
Those right-wing freakists screaming for blood and vengeance before we even profile the shooter.
When we were there at the show today, everyone felt scared. Everyone was horrified. And, you know, it's one of those like, it's not being hyperbolic. It's not being dramatic. It's not being self-centered to worry about what happens next. And of course, we were all thinking about Hassan, and we're all thinking about like us and people who are in these circles. And, you know, my mom called me. My mom called me and was really scared and was like, "Are you going to cover this tonight?" I said, "Yes, I'm going to cover this." And she expressed how concerned she was. And I understand. I do. Because I am as well. And there's a lot of reasons why this kind of violence is not something to look at as the way. One, if you are a Marxist, if you are on the left, if you have leftist beliefs, your revolutionists, your thought leaders, your people who paved the way for you, they did not believe in this. They did not believe the way to a fair and equal society, to one where, you know, we are not separated by this wide gap in between our various economic classes. They did not believe in this kind of individualistic violence, because this does not fix societal issues. This does not fix systemic violence. So just to start off with that, it's like what that says is not about the, you know, not about like how things are going to change, but how things have been and continue to be, that we got to this point, that we get to this point, whether it's somebody murdering a healthcare CEO or it's somebody murdering a political influencer. It's not a good sign for the state of our society, for what our systems are doing to people, that this is what happens. And that's why, like, it doesn't matter who the shooter is. Like, the focus should not be on that. And like, yes, I think it's like, okay, let me just say, obviously it's always important to point out the patterns with mass shooters in this country, the patterns of violence often being right wing, white, ultra nationalistic, especially because so much of this gets turned into like the violent left. But what I'm trying to say is like, what a crazy
day today, Quan Hart, Quan Raid.
What's ultimately the most important thing is looking at why the fuck this is happening and how we have to change things and why we have to change things. And feeling for the children shot in Colorado. Yeah, I mean, it really is like, you have to just stop and go, we are at a point where the assassination of a political influencer happens at the same time that yet again children in a high school are shot. And that's not getting any coverage because there's not a way. I mean, because, kids getting shot in high schools happens all the time. So who cares anymore? But also because it just doesn't have the, it's not the story that the media wants to pour over. And on top of that, his last words, the last breath that he took, the same man who said that deaths as a result of the Second Amendment, well, that's just something that it's got to happen. It's an unfortunate consequence to making sure that we never lose our freedoms. But this same man, his last breath in talking about gun violence in this country and trying to do what he always did, which was completely distort the issue and add in a little sprinkle of racism. Literally died on that hill. Yes. And that's why, like, let me actually just pull it up. I was watching Zohran Mamdani talk about it, and I thought it was, I thought the way that he pivoted this into talking about gun control, talking about Charlie Kirk as another victim of gun violence in this country.
Quan Hart.
I'll just let you listen.
Today, Quan Hart, Quan Raid. Has Raid.
It is a real honor to be in a room so full of love and solidarity. And I have much of those very feelings.
Also, I just have to say too, people on the left who were fucking jumping down Zohran Mamdani's throat because he did the thing that all politicians or people who are trying to be politicians did and post like gun violence is has no home here, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand why the fuck you think that he's not going to say something, that you think that Zohran Mamdani, who's running to be mayor of New York City, is not going to address this or does not have the pressure of addressing this. Like, what are we doing? What's going on? Yeah. Charlie Kirk was insanely racist to him, as he was insanely racist to every group. He, in his final days, shit on women, on LGBTQ people, on Muslims, on like all of them, because that was the kind of rhetoric that he spread in his life. But do you think that Zohran Mamdani, a candidate for New York City mayor, is going to go on Twitter and be like, ha ha, see ya, sucker? Where's your brain?
Emotions and commitments that I want to share with all of you. But before I begin, I do want to take a moment to address the horrific political assassination that just occurred today in Utah. Charlie Kirk is dead. Yet another victim of gun violence in a nation where what should be a rarity has turned into a plague. It cannot be a question of political agreement or alignment that allows us to mourn. It must be the shared notion of humanity.
And I just have to say too, I know the motherfucking evil ass right wing is they're evil. They're evil. I know this. I know you can say, oh, but they are, they're talking about like trying to blame it on the left. Oh, they say that hypocritical double standards. Of course. But is that you? And is that the kind of world that we're pushing for, where we just this is just how it goes? So we'll sit over here, and the most that we will do is like celebrate when somebody horrible dies, and then they celebrate when somebody horrible dies. You know what I'm saying? It's like, maybe you don't use evil right now because that's what they're framing the left as. No, they are evil. No. Like right-wing politicians and people who allow children to be murdered every single day, whether in Palestine, whether here, who are ripping families apart, who don't give a shit when Melissa Hortman and her husband are gunned down. Like, yeah, that's evil. It is evil. It is. And I would never tell you, and I think it's important, I would never tell you to like not acknowledge that reality. But what I'm trying to say is that Zoran trying to push the path forward here, which should always be the path forward, which is that
is a better day than ever to support leftist voices that show empathy instead of vindictiveness. Hassle gun control now.
We need better than what the fuck this is. You should be careful. Okay, you don't need to tell me this, Zen Junkie. Let me just tell you. Let me tell you. I am very careful in my language. I am a streamer. I get death threats. I have been swatted. I am good friends with Hassan. We have upcoming travel plans. Our group does. I worry about him all the time. I worry about myself. I worry for everybody. Okay? I do not like what this environment is. I'm trying to fix this in the ways that I can. In going, yeah, there's so much awfulness happening. There's so much evil every day. Political violence is not just Charlie Kirk being assassinated. Political violence is not just Charlie Kirk being assassinated. Political violence is happening every day. As I said, anti-trans legislation, $200 billion to ICE, families being ripped apart, genocide in Palestine, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, homelessness, people being denied health care, 70,000 people dying every year because we do not have universal health care. This is all violence. This is state-sanctioned violence. This is violence that's okay because the state authorizes it. And then the state looks at violence that is not okay when it's a healthcare CEO being gunned down, when it's a political influencer. And I don't think that is good either, because of what that speaks to where our society is at, where we have reached this critical mass where these systems that are designed in violent ways are acting just as such. It does show how broken we are. And so I will never go, yep, this is the way. Individual lone wolf acts of violence. Never. But also, that is not the same thing as being like, you know what? We just shouldn't. What do you want me to say? And I understand. Look, I'm not. If it sounds like I'm yelling at you, I'm not yelling at you. But I do think. Okay, I know this person. I know this chatter is like trying to mean well. I know this chatter is trying to mean well. You're not. You're not understanding. You're not understanding. How should I talk about violence and those who promote it and those who create and uphold such violent systems and policies? Yeah, I think that I know that chatter. I know that chatter is like, hey, that's not Fed posting. Okay. What I'm talking about here is not what we refer to as Fed posting, is not the concerns of, and you know what? The thing is that just by being a leftist streamer, I already in just my existence, I mean, really, I can start with just being an opinionated woman of color on the internet. But already that is like unacceptable. So what I think is important to understand the difference between is in this, like, first of all, like specifically do not Fed post, do not say things that you will get banned for in regards to Charlie Kirk being assassinated, that like, you know, you may have your words read back to you in a court of law, that type of thing. All the posts you see that's like, keep it in the group chat. That's what that's referring to. Okay. But also just more broadly in a moment like this, and not just Charlie Kirk being assassinated, but kids in a high school at the same time being shot. Palestinians today, like every single day, being massacred. Like there are violent things that are happening every single day. And so the question is, what are we going to do about it? And the answer is not, relying on, the answer is not relying nor condoning lone wolf acts of violence, no matter like whatever, you know, whatever the reasons are. No, never. Xander Ambrose, please listen to me. Please listen to me. Please listen to me, because what you're doing right now is you're a robot. You are programmed, because I am on the left, you are programmed to say things like, quit spewing hate. Quit spewing hate. Maybe wait at least a day to celebrate. I don't know if you're talking to me. It seems like you're talking to me because this is my stream. And what's so frustrating is that a lot of us, myself included, we look at days like today and we mourn, not because a person whose views were so abhorrent, not because it's what people say and what they are responsible in their, while they're alive has no bearing once they've died. We mourn because of this culture of violence overall, because of how sick and violent this society is. And that we can't keep going this way. We can't have a shooting at a high school occurring at the same time that a political influencer is being assassinated, at the same time that our taxpayer dollars are going towards the bombs and the weapons being used on a civilian population over in the Middle East. And because ultimately Charlie Kirk, even though there's a lot of attention right now and a lot of calls for for more violence and war and, you know, the flags flying at half mast. Ultimately, Charlie Kirk will be like everyone else who is a victim of gun violence in this country, where nothing will happen. It will be more fanfare than your average person because he's Charlie Kirk. And when his funeral happens, this will go down. The energy right now will go down. His funeral will happen. That will spike up again. But then we just keep going. And the thing about being a leftist is that you believe in things for all people. So when we say universal health care, we mean everybody gets health care. It's not I don't like your political beliefs, so therefore you do not get health care. That's not how that works. And if anybody thinks that's how it works, then they're wrong and they are not actually adhering to those ideals. And when we say gun control, when we say ending gun violence, we mean it doesn't matter what your, you know, if you are a right-wing political influencer. It means gun control to protect this entire society. We've been calling out the right for their evil actions every day. Charlie being killed changes nothing about that reality. I think some chatters are just
Here
being
in
weird.
Scotland,
Yeah, I mean,
in
it's to be expected. Also, I have more people in here than normal to be expected on something like today. I will say, I think
legislation in the UK was changed.
What is so frustrating is I think what I'm struggling with is I get that this news is huge and it's very shocking. And yes, that is true. But also that we've become, I guess, so desensitized to all the other violence that or that people just don't care about it. Like, it's so normalized that this is what is standing out to people. Like, I guess I understand that there's those of us who it's like, yeah, this is big news because it's Charlie Kirk and because just on top of everything else. But for others, my concern is that this is to you a unique act of violence. Like, it's so shocking because you view this as existing in a vacuum. I am mostly worried about how the right will use this. I understand that. I mean, I think that's always the concern. I will say, like, the right has already been using this. And that's why it also doesn't matter if the shooter is, you know, if the shooter is of a political background, right, has a political ideology that the right goes, see, that's the opposite of ours. That's why they did this. That doesn't matter because they don't care. They use this to push the narrative that they want, to ensure even less gun control. You know, I mean, it didn't, right? It's like when Melissa Hortman was murdered, you had Republican lawmakers who, and people like Elon Musk, who were just making up whatever they wanted to. And then when the facts came out, well, here's the thing about a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth can put its boots on. So when it comes to the narrative, it's whatever is just said first, and it's whoever is pushing it the hardest. So that's why, like, if you're waiting on figuring out the political ideology of the shooter to see what the right is going to do, or if you're like, oh my God, the right is now going to go ham, right? Like Donald Trump, they are doing that. But I also do understand the concern. I do understand the concern of this just worsening an already violent environment. It's not like things are great and now suddenly things are not going to be great. I mean, Donald Trump has been sending the National Guard into American cities. Like, he is sicking the military on American citizens. He's posting AI photos of himself in Apocalypse Now to brag about how he's unleashing the military on U.S. citizens. The Trump shooter was revealed to be a Republican, yet the news is still saying radical left. Of course. Okay, anyway, let me finish.
Humanity. It reminds us that this news is not just that of the murder of a prominent political figure, but also the news of a wife who grieves her husband, of a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old who will grow up without a father, and the fact that there are families feeling that same anguish right now in Colorado as they wait for their children, also shot at a school, to emerge from surgery. It is the same anguish that too many across our city and our nation reckon with in silence every day as we contend with an epidemic of suffering.
Yes. And the reason that why I think what he's saying is important and needs to be said is because what he's acknowledging is the violence that is happening every single day. Kids who are growing up without parents, parents who are growing up without kids. How this has become so normalized, how there are a few people, there's a small group of people who make a lot of money off of the suffering and deaths of people in this country. Lux Progressive, thank you for the raid.
We can and we must do more to challenge a status quo that has allowed this pain to become routine, that has allowed the question of which mass shooting to respond to the news of one that is shared. And it is incumbent upon all of us to repair the tears in our shared civic fabric and to make our nation one that is worthy of its greatest ideals. It is.
It's so, I feel like I'm so exhausted that I don't even have the energy to yell at people who come in here and just are robots. They just repeat whatever has been drilled into their brains. They don't even listen to what I'm saying. They just look at me and go in the same way, ironically, in the same way of how they accuse leftists of being like, oh, because I know that these are what your political beliefs are, you are just evil. You're bad. Like this person who's coming in here saying that people like Hassan and I label all of the right as Nazis and we're the problem. And we're too fucking stupid to see it. It's like, if this person was listening to the words that I was saying, they would maybe hear that all I am trying to do is advocate for an actual better world for all of us. I'm not going, hey, by the way, my advocacy stops if you do not believe in the things that I believe in. So good luck. See ya. Fuck you. Fuck you. Bye. Have fun. Like that's not how it works when you're actually principled, when you have morals, when you have values as it pertains to how you see this world that we all inhabit and how you believe that it should not work for some people and for a small select number of people, and everybody else gets screwed. And it's not about winning points, right? Like I'm not here to get any digs in. I'm not here to score some internet points or anything. I am so exhausted by how horrifying this is. I am really deeply saddened. I am so sad. I'm so sad that this is so normal.
Note, your eyeshadow is absolutely fire Quan Hart.
Roms, thank you. And thank you for the resub. CF, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Chatter Juju, thank you. C4 Devy, Tachycardia, Noble Bragg, Summer Ends, Orbs, Muffin, Slimbop, Valahan, Kenno, Jordy, Queegs, McVites, Grasson, Hassana, me and Jorless, Pedro, Steve, Brigitte, Ducko, all y'all. And thank you to everybody who understands what I'm saying. That you get it, you know? You get it. I mean, when we were all sitting around watching the news, I was with people who, you know, none of us liked Charlie Kirk. He spewed really hateful rhetoric, whether it was on Jubilee, whether it was like in front of kids at a Turning Point USA event, whatever it was, like he amassed a lot of influence and spread very hateful things. And yet the feeling that every person, including myself, had when we were sitting there was just horror, was just sadness, was anger, was all of these, was exhaustion, just you know? And then thinking about like what's going to happen after this, you know? What's going to be next? What follows this?
Talk to M less than 3. Off-topic side note, your eyeshadow is absolutely fire.
Did the non-political people on the show know who he was? Not sure how normies are talking about this. There were a couple people one person who had like heard his name but didn't know that much about him. Another person who didn't know him and so was sitting there all. I mean, it's just it is one of those things that I mean, this is how like filled with contradictions we can be, in that we are so accustomed to this violence, but can also be shocked at seeing something in the middle of broad daylight in front of a group of 200 people on a university campus like that, you know? The close-up video was so traumatizing to see. It just brought back everything we've been seeing coming out of Gaza and continue to see till this day. Yeah, and I went on my timeline and it was like Charlie Kirk, you know, in between every post about Charlie Kirk, I would see 20 Palestinians who had just been bombed. Like an image of two little boys who one of them was wearing like a Christian Dior shirt and they were dead. It's like that. And I understand also, like, oh yeah, we're not meant to see this much violence. We're not meant to experience this much violence. It's not just seeing it. The problem is not just, oh, you go on the internet and there's just graphic videos everywhere. The problem is that we should not be living through this kind of violence every day. It should not be normal. You should not be able to become wealthy, to become a billionaire because you sell weapons, because you have a stake in a company that sells weapons that rip little bodies apart. Like, that never should have ever become a reality. The moment I saw Hassan's expression watching it, I decided I'm never going to watch that video. Yeah, I mean, I got to be so honest too. Like, I am scared. I am scared for TwitchCon. I am scared. I'm scared for Hassan. I'm scared for just what this could all mean. I mean, people in our group are already expressing not wanting to go to public events, right? And so that's the other thing too, is like, maybe it's Charlie Kirk today and then it's somebody else tomorrow who is politically the opposite of Charlie Kirk. But regardless,
we really live in a country
it just
where
keeps
having
happening.
An opinion is genuinely dangerous. Never agreed with him. He didn't deserve to die. You're very articulate.
I think anyone on the left that isn't worried about the future after this is severely downplaying what could happen in reaction. And I think I've seen a lot. Trust, I've seen every single take on this. Everyone's got a take, and everyone is giving their take. And I've seen people who go, oh, kind of, I think, mocking the concerns over how bad things will get and be like, oh, so you think things are so good now? It's like, I don't think people who say that are necessarily saying that it's great now. I think it's the expressing concern over what this will lead into and what then that will lead into, and how it's just one thing after another. Laura Loomer said left-leaning orgs should be disbanded and prosecuted. Yeah, and I'm concerned at how this could impact our social media platforms, where people like me and many others go onto these places to talk about things that are political, to talk about the news, and how there've already been growing cries to like ban politics on Twitch, to like crack down on radical leftism on these platforms. And we're seeing, pieces of legislation that are being pushed through under the, say, guise of protecting the kids. And really, they're being pushed by bigots who want to restrict information that kids are accessing. Like, it's about control. And of course, Elon Musk is out here tweeting about the violent left. Trump posted a video where he said left-wing orgs and groups will be pursued, so Loomer already got what she wanted. Yeah. So I think these are all concerns that I think these are all valid concerns. And I think it's not just, like, for me, it's not just the concerns that I have for our country, for the platform that I work on, but also personal concerns, personal safety, I remember the day of the Covenant shooting here in Nashville. I work with kids in another type of public building. We didn't know if any of our kids went there, spent the day stressed. We were still expected to work and move on like everything was normal, but I can literally remember the horror and worry and pain like it was yesterday. Secondary trauma is real. Without free healthcare, the pain continues to be untreated, then feeds into hatred that leads to days like this again. Yeah, I know. The normies I know that don't know who he is just see it as another shooting are like, that's sad. It keeps happening. And look, I do think for people who don't know Charlie Kirk, I don't think he should be presented as someone who is simply just a political influencer. For like a lot of normies not understanding the violent rhetoric that he and many others partake in. And it's we're not doing the thing where when someone dies, then we never talk about what they did during their life. And you can't talk about Charlie Kirk without talking about the systemic violence that he sought to uphold. And even though he was not a person who was like in the streets physically harming people, we talk about how we have to tone down the violent rhetoric. There's so much violent rhetoric that is just more and more normalized. The way that white supremacy and ultra nationalistic fascist views, the way that the way that like people who are already subjugated to such violence are further subjugated to violence, which includes rhetoric that is used to push really awful policies, which is used to like protect violent state actors. You know, when you talk about Black people being violent, that it was better for them to be enslaved. Well, what that does then is it makes the case for upholding state violence, for protecting it. Because when you argue that Black people are violent and need to, essentially be controlled, then what you are doing is greenlighting the state's ability to use force against Black people, immigrants, etc. I see so much white replacement and white genocide online nowadays. Yeah, also because on a platform like Twitter, which is owned by Elon Musk. Are we speaking ill of the dead when we're talking about the heinous things they did when alive? No, but what happens is like this happened with Kissinger. This happens with everyone. This will happen with Donald Trump. Like when Donald Trump dies, people will be like, shh, no, you cannot talk about the things that Donald Trump was responsible for when he was alive. No, it's not speaking ill of the dead. It's presented as speaking ill of the dead because people don't want to have to acknowledge the harm. They don't want to have conversations that address the bad things that someone did while they were alive because now they are dead. And, well, they can't speak up for themselves. And it's like, okay, somebody who's now no longer able to defend themselves because they're no longer alive does not give them immunity from their life and legacy being talked about in totality, which includes includes things they did while they were alive that were not good. News outlets already cleaning his record of what he would preach online. People need to be aware of what he was saying to influence other people. Yeah, I mean, it's also one of those, like, think about in your own personal life, right? Just even remove the public figure element. Somebody who, when they were alive, was in a position of power, was a person who had influence. Just in your own personal life, like, say you had a parent or another family member who caused you harm when they were alive, who hurt you, right? Who acted in ways that negatively influenced your life, and then they die. And I don't think that just because someone has died, you have to honor them then in a way that does not acknowledge the hurt that they caused you when they were alive. And really, if you don't want people to be talking about the bad things you did after you have died, then don't do bad things. Then don't cause harm to people. Do no harm. Do no harm. So that when you die, people are not talking about the harm that you caused. Like Jeanette McCurdy's book title. Yes, Jeanette McCurdy, who wrote a memoir titled "I'm Glad My Mom Died," and people lost their fucking minds. And of course, people didn't bother to read the book. It was just, oh my God, I can't believe this girl would say, "I'm glad my mom died." That was her mother. It doesn't matter that her mother was abusive. It doesn't matter her mother was abusive. Her mother is dead now. An MSNBC analyst fired for saying Kirk's hateful words lead to hateful actions. Wait, really? Oh my God. And you can't, like, it's undeniable. You cannot separate violent rhetoric from a violent culture. Do we think that people just say words and why would they say the words then if there was no impact? Hello? Why would anybody bother speaking? Why would you bother saying the things that you're saying if they did not hold influence? If they did not have the ability to cause great impact, to like have meaning? I've had a few friends that had abusive relatives where people shit on them for being honest after the relative died. Not fair. It's not fair. It's right to be honest. Right. But there is just this cultural, it's a cultural belief that you should never say anything about someone after they've died. Truly. But then there is like also on top of that political incentive and other reasons why, when somebody who had a lot of influence in their life and used that influence to cause harm, when they die, that people want to ensure that there is no addressing, there's no talking about the consequences of that rhetoric. While at the same time, we have all this bullshit of, oh, we need to tone things down. We need to tone. Let me talk about toning things down as I use like even more incendiary language. Like let me use violent words while talking about how we need to tone the violence down. MSNBC and Charlie Kirk shooting. Let me see.
Hateful actions. And I think, and I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt,
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in. And I always go back to,
So, you know what this is again? This is after 10/7 when people tried to talk about why 10/7 happened, the circumstances, the violent conditions, the systemic brutality, the systemic violence, and then anybody who tried to do that was shit all over, was called all sorts of horrible things. As it's so mind-numbingly frustrating to have this shit happen and then not be allowed, be considered gauche, be considered cruel, be considered whatever words they want to use when you address the reality.
hateful thoughts.
That's crazy. He said you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place. MSNBC just issued the following statement of condemnation. Statement from MSNBC President Rebecca Cutler. During our breaking news coverage of the shooting of Charlie Kirk, Matthew Dowd made comments that were inappropriate, insensitive, and unacceptable. Why? Why is it unacceptable to talk about how violent rhetoric can have no place? Why is it inappropriate to acknowledge the fact that Charlie Kirk, who had enormous influence, was using that influence to stir up more violence in this country? What happened to him was incredibly violent. And Matthew Dowd, like others who are providing any type of analysis, they're not condoning it. They're not saying like, hell yeah, more of this, please. He's pointing out the reality. He's just stating, he's stating the problem here. There is no place for violence in America, political or otherwise. No, we no longer accept apologies. You don't understand. The page has been turned. We are coming for your sponsors. We are coming for every dollar you make. We are coming for your broadcasting license. We are coming for every single penny. Buckle up. Okay, bro. Matt Van Swal. Okay, well, MSNBC is already fucking right-wing anyway. Like, I'm surprised they even had someone on who was saying this. I'm not surprised that he got fired.
As what you just emphasized, we don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. Yeah, and again, I'm just
Wow, what incredible commentary. We don't know if this was a supporter shooting a gun off. Wow. Yeah, I don't think that's what that was. But nice try. Try again. Try again. TMZ addresses laughter overheard in back of office while reporting on Charlie Kirk's assassination.
When something happened in our office, as we were reporting the assassination of Charlie Kirk, there were some people in the back room away from our news desk here who were watching a car chase. And they were laughing, they were clapping, and you could hear it out here. And we want to make a couple of things clear. One is that I know these people.
TMZ, please.
And they were not laughing, they were not reacting that way about Charlie Kirk's assassination.
I'm sorry, I can't remember the guy on the right's name, but him standing there with just his thumb in his pocket, nodding
They were
along.
not. They would not work here if they did.
And that being said, we acknowledge that it was horrible timing
and for that, we are sorry.
We apologize. We apologize
I get
that you
why-
had to hear that.
And I get why if you're watching the stream, you may have felt that that's what the laughter was about. We assure you, it
Charles.
was not about that, but it was horrible timing. And
By the way, I get it too, and he gets it because we listened as we were talking. You
Oh, they're panicked.
can go back and look on the stream. I
They
actually
are
walked off
panicking.
camera to go back and find out what the hell was going on.
This is probably why they apologized. Oh, Laura Loomer. Wait, wasn't Laura Loomer just saying last week about how Charlie Kirk is an enemy? Huh. So if we're going to be pointing fingers and talking about who's responsible for what, well, then couldn't we just say Laura Loomer was responsible for violence against him because she was saying just last week? She was saying just last week that I'm sure somebody posted it in the comments here, that Charlie Kirk, that they were not on the same team. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to hear Charlie Kirk claim he's pro-Trump ever again. After this weekend, I'd say he has revealed himself as political opportunist, and I have had a front row seat to witness the mental gymnastics these last 10 years. Lately, Charlie has decided to behave like a charlatan, claiming to be pro-Trump one day while he stabs Trump in the back the next. TPUSA was only able to thrive thanks to the generosity of President Trump. Laura Loomer now, because Charlie Kirk was murdered, is the one who she posted this TMZ clip. It couldn't, this is so shameful and disgusting. But do you see how this logic, this illogical logic, how we can just keep pulling threads where we go, oh, that's interesting, Laura. Now you're in this position of pointing fingers and saying that the violent left is responsible for this. But you just last week were pointing out to your how many millions of followers? 1.7 million followers on Twitter that Charlie Kirk is essentially saying that he's an enemy, that he's fake, that he's a phony.
So I would think that that's one of the main reasons they're holding this news conference. So my guess is we're going to see.
Yeah, to your followers who I'm sure have a bunch of guns between them.
An image of this guy possibly in the next 20 minutes. The news conference is scheduled for 3 o'clock in Utah time, which is 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern. Janet, go to
Okay, honestly, no wonder TMZ was like, oh my God, we have to issue an apology ASAP. Because this does seem like the TMZ staff who are not on camera are just clapping and applauding. Because here's the other thing. There's a lot of news that happened today. There's always a lot of news that happens. The Charlie Kirk news is what dominated. Unfortunately for say people like Paddington the Bear, I think this was deleted. Paddington had tweeted out like there was a lot of this. There was a lot of this where people were talking about things or had just made a statement or just posted something that then in hindsight and in the context of Charlie Kirk's murder looked really crazy. And do you think that the TMZ staff, genuinely, do you think whoever this is, that they're glued to the screen paying attention to Charlie Kirk? No, of course they're watching a car chase. Of course they would be watching a car chase, and that would be like the biggest thing that was capturing people's attention. Yeah, Paddington tweeted out, today is the day to try something new. Well, I always thought that bear had a glint in its eye. And then Paddington deleted this, but the craziest one, I'm sure you have seen the Jezebel. Yeah. We paid some Etsy witches to curse Charlie Kirk. This is from 2 days ago. If the far-right misogynist with a bad haircut wants to villainize independent women, Jezebel is more than happy to be the hag of his nightmares. Who is Charlie Kirk? If you've never heard of him, he debates college kids for sport, pops up on Fox News, and founded the right-wing conspiracy theory factory Turning Point USA. Billed as a nonprofit, Turning Point is less about charity and more about funneling far-right propaganda into dorm rooms under the guise of educating young voters. Through these various ventures, Kirk has transformed into a reliable pawn, parroting Project 2025 talking points and championing the owning of the libs. He's basically a fake news vending machine with a terrible haircut. Sadly, Trump's reelection only ensured I've been seeing more of that god-awful haircut. A cornerstone of Kirk's nightmare ideology is his insistence that since gaining more independence, Western women are more miserable than ever. He tells auditoriums full of young women that our freedom is a flaw, not an achievement. He's obsessed with declining birth rates and idealizes the 1950s when women's only job was tending to children and husbands. If we all abandon our careers and return to motherhood, we'd be happier, according to Kirk. Instead, he fails to realize that I would be happiest if he just shut up. Okay, so then this continues on. They literally hired an Etsy witch. The aftermath. The next day, the priestess sent me her proof of cast. A photograph in flames, the edges slowly curving inward, engulfing Charlie's ridiculous scrunched up little face. She whispered, "Trust the unseen." I timed the purchase perfectly with the August new moon in Virgo. According to the astrology girlies on TikTok, this specific new moon is the perfect time for forming new habits and aligning goals. My personal goal, cursing Kirk. The stars were aligned. Sunday, August 24th, passed. Nothing. Monday, still nothing. Tuesday rolled around. I began to wonder if I'd been scammed. But then I reminded myself, this is witchcraft, not Amazon. The forces operate on their own schedule. By Wednesday, I checked Charlie's socials to see if he was spouting anything new, and of course he was. This time he was weighing in on Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's engagement, tweeting, "Young women should get married just like Taylor Swift is planning to. You will be happier." Then on an episode of The Charlie Kirk Show, he told the Taylor Swift to reject feminism, submit to your husband, Taylor. It dawned on me, the witches didn't even need to curse him. The Swifties will handle him now. And let's be real, the Swifties are much scarier. Or was sicking the Swifties onto Kirk the curse actually working? Then there was more. According to ABC4, Utah State University students launched a petition to bar Kirk and Turning Point USA from visiting the campus on his college tour. Charlie Kirk, a highly polarizing figure, does not align with the core values and ideology that Utah State University strives to epitomize. It's so crazy to think that if woke cancel culture that the right is always screaming against, if it had succeeded, and if they had kept Charlie Kirk from appearing on campus, he would not have been assassinated today. Like, woke almost could have saved his life. The petition was launched on Friday, August 22nd, and had already been signed over 3,800 times. Could this be the make everyone hate him at work? Then I saw a tweet that certified the results. His head is getting bigger, the post read, alongside the clip of Kirk telling Swift that she's not in charge. I believe this is it. Slowly over the course of the coming months, the circumference of Kirk's head will increase inch by inch until he becomes a literal human bobblehead. Or maybe it keeps growing until it eventually pops. Either way, it feels appropriate. So, did my Etsy curse work? Time will tell. The forces move in mysterious ways, and as the priestess reminded me, spell work is a collaboration between the caster, the client, and the universe itself. For now, we can only trust in the timing of the great unknown. A special thank you to the witches of the modern age who work tirelessly to hex Republicans and topple conservative regimes, and the occasional ex-boyfriend. Your work is appreciated. And to you, Mr. Kirk, may the rash come swiftly. I mean, this is crazy. And then there was the editor's note. Wait, where's the editor's note? So obviously this Jezebel post blew up because this is from literally 2 days ago. It's in, why don't I see it? Editor's note was under the first. Oh, sorry. Here. Editor's note. This story was published on September 8th. Jezebel condemns the shooting of Charlie Kirk in the strongest possible terms. We do not endorse, encourage, or excuse political violence of any kind. I cannot believe this Jezebel piece. I'm actually surprised. Look, they said they just wanted a rash. They were like, we didn't ask for this. We were just trying to give them a rash. I'm actually surprised they haven't taken this down because, well, I guess there's no individual reporter who's on this. I think if it were an individual journalist, then Jezebel's duty should, like, they absolutely should have taken it down just because of what that would result in. I guess clicks equal money. I don't know. Seattle Mariners tweeted out, shout out to the Etsy witch at an unfortunate time. Yeah, so there were many such examples of that, of bad timing, like people who were reacting to another piece of news and weren't aware that the Charlie Kirk shooting was dominating the media, like as it was still unfolding. And anyway, yes, this is the most views Jezebel has had in years. That's true. Poor Valkyrie tweeting out good news, or not tweeting out, her stream title being good news. Obviously, girl had no idea what was going on, obviously.
Right. Why don't you start with the President of the United States? Right? And every ugly meme he has posted and every ugly word. Oh, please.
Like it's so ludicrous. It is so ludicrous. As much as I get angry at the Democrats, as much as I call out the Democrats capitulating to their wealthy interests and how they are incompetent on purpose because they want to have power but not use that power for good. As much as I say that, also it is ludicrous to act as if violent rhetoric, when you look at the two parties, that violent rhetoric is a problem with the Democrats. And she's right. She's right to be like, oh, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? Like, especially talking about rhetoric. Now, obviously, like, when it comes to violent actions, yes, you know, you pull out the Obama deported more people than even Donald Trump did, which seems wild considering that Trump seems to be, because he makes such a big show out of it, right? He treats everything as a spectacle, right? Like Democrats absolutely fund, you know, they fund ICE, they fund these same violent systems. But when talking about violent rhetoric, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, loves it because it's all part of the spectacle. It's all part of the show. And people who are fans of his, they're here for it. Sleepy Seagoat, thank you for the tier 1. Kithlin, Kaz, FM, Frick, Roms, thank you for the resubs, everybody. You should watch the rest of the TMZ clip right after the cheers. A guy runs up and says, oh, okay. Let me see.
Somebody look at the Fox. Trump just posted that Charlie Kirk is dead. What did Trump say? Yeah, who sent it? So what did Trump say? Yeah, Trump just said he's dead. Yeah, he just said it. Okay.
Also, what the hell was this car chase that had people clapping? That like clearly it was so entertaining that there were TMZ staffers in some room who were watching it like it was a sporting event.
And my sympathies
that up?
go out to his beautiful wife.
Like right now.
Yeah. True social. True social.
Where is it?
It's number 2 and pending.
Got it. You're still in it.
You're still in it.
Okay.
Get it up.
Got it.
Yeah, that's wild. I have not watched. I have not watched the situation, or sorry, Trump's response to it. Did you see the tweet from Anna Lee, the VTuber, earlier today? She tweeted about personal life news, but included a meme with a Renaissance picture of a lady with a sword through her neck. No, I did not see that, but I'm sure she I'm sure she's sitting there going, okay, obviously that was bad timing. Her chat was
She did 9
stressing
a.m.
her
today,
out.
and I'm so tired. But alas, good things have happened today with oh my god, everything I say is so. You guys are. I can't tell if you guys are trolling, but stop trolling. Stop joking about terrible things. Stop it. Stop. I had a photo shoot. Okay, I had a photo shoot today, and I have good news about my release. My comic came out today. My comic release. Good. Happy comic release day.
Aww.
Okay.
Yeah, as a reminder, obviously the Charlie Kirk assassination has been dominating the media, will continue to until it dies down. There are other things that have happened. Not everything is terrible. Not everything is terrible, you know? Poor thing. That is, and here's the thing too, you know, okay, this is a sign too of how terrible the environment is, that people who don't do politics are stressed about coming across as if they're celebrating something and then are going to be subjected to death threats. Maybe the FBI knocking at their door, you know? That kind of thing where there is a lot of fear because of how fucking violent people are. Projected winner of Chile's presidency just mentioned Charlie Kirk on the opening statement of today's debate. Wow. The governor of Utah also said we're celebrating before he continued his sentence about something else.
Just another day
He's talking
in
about Charlie
paradise,
Kirk,
Ty,
and it
for
sounded like he
being
was
here to
celebrating that he
discuss.
died, which isn't really not true because the governor of Utah is very conservative. What? Governor of Utah said we're celebrating before he continued talking about something else. Oh, and then it sounded like he was saying we're celebrating that Charlie Kirk has died. You think the media would be nearly as whitewashed and respectful if this was a big lefty that got iced? No. No. First of all, because the mainstream media is right wing. I don't care if it's MSNBC. Like, it's right wing, okay? If you think like MSNBC, CNN, no, they're saying the same stuff. And on top of that, we have did we not just see what happened with Melissa Hortman? Melissa Hortman, who was a Democratic member of the House of Representatives in Minnesota, who was murdered in cold blood alongside her husband. They were hunted down. They were hunted down. And it was really Hardly a blip in the media. They did not give a fuck. And then on top of it, Republican lawmakers who were making jokes as the situation was
Just
unfolding,
another day in
which is
paradise. Ty for
especially
being here
sick,
to discuss.
which is especially sick, not just because that's disgusting, but because those are their colleagues. They were murdered in their home and their dog. Yeah, and their dog. And people like Mike Lee, Nightmare on Wall Street, were making those jokes, not just about a husband and wife and their dog who had just been murdered in their home, but somebody who was his colleague. I'm telling you right now, I don't even I don't even want to give that. If something were to happen to Hassan, you know that the way it would be covered in the media is they would be making sure to mention Hamas. They would bring Hamas into it. They would talk about Hassan being they would be like, Hassan Piker, who was very incendiary, and some people said he was a terrorist supporter. So, some people said. The guy who said America deserved 9/11, oh, you best believe they would not be skipping over the rhetoric that Hassan Piker used. Cuomo literally did this yesterday. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so this was the House floor during a moment of silence. And this is what's also crazy is like what I don't get is, I know I keep going back to Melissa Hortman, but it's because it just happened. Did Melissa Hortman get a moment of silence? No. Melissa Hortman was literally a politician. Do other mass shootings? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is what is also like the flags at half-mast. There were kids who were just killed at that Catholic school who were just shot today in Colorado. Like this, I don't know. Here's what's driving me crazy. And I said this before, but it's that the Charlie Kirk assassination, just aside, okay, the Charlie Kirk assassination is being treated as a special event, as like this insane act of violence that is unique in its violence. That it's like isolated, existing in a vacuum, when really you look at this and he is just another victim of gun violence, which is something that we try to talk about all the time. Just another statistic. Right? And like, regardless of who Charlie Kirk was, regardless of the things that he said, talking about how Charlie Kirk is just another statistic in this country. And yet the way, of course, this is being treated in the media, in Congress, would make you think that it's different than all the other things that happen.
The chair would ask that all members present in the chamber and those in the gallery please rise for a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk and his family.
Romy, thank you for the 6 months. Mikey, thank you for the 8. Broccolito, thank you for the 8.
what purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise?
Wait, I don't even understand. They did their moment of silence. Why is this being reported on as if when Mike Johnson called for a moment of silence, Democrats immediately erupted into cries for gun control?
Shh. Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. Shh.
Also, does Lauren Boebert know that another shooting happened in her state? Does she care?
The House will be in order. We will join prayer right after this, okay? The chair lays before the House a communication. The House will be in order.
Someone slipped in and said, and for Colorado. Oh, someone said it, and for Colorado after they said Charlie. Do you know what is so diabolical? You know what's so diabolical? The people who politically align with Charlie Kirk are the ones who, of course, are not actually pushing for any measures, anything here to that's actually taking any type of action, right? It's the thoughts and prayers again. And ones who did not politically align with Charlie Kirk, who probably hated everything that Charlie Kirk stood for when he was alive, are the ones who are trying to not let his death, I guess, be in vain, so to speak, like every other victim of gun violence, where it's like, hey, the way to actually honor somebody is to ensure that we try and put a stop to this happening over and over and over and over again. It's so angering. Like, it's genuinely, I just wish people would, I wish they would see how ridiculous this is, how crazy it is. And yet, you know, chatters have already been banned in here and will probably continue to come in here and be like, you're fucking evil piece of shit, leftist, violent freak, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, will you just look at the difference here? Yeah, Charlie Kirk didn't care. I mean, Charlie Kirk himself said that, you know, sadly, people are going to have to die. That's what happens. There will be deaths, gun deaths, but that's what happens because our total freedom in owning guns, as many guns as we want. Nobody's going to stop us owning guns. Utah, open carry state. Truly. And the Republicans that all agree with that as well, that advocate for that as well, are in this moment. Of course, they're not going to, right? Like they're not going to change anything now that Charlie Kirk, one of theirs, has been gunned down in broad daylight. No.
Hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews out.
Also, I gotta be so for real. I do think that there are some who genuinely are distraught and are heartbroken that Charlie is dead. And I think there are others who are just such fucking opportunists to their last breath that they are almost probably like if you were to really dig past the performative sadness, like they're vultures, right? They're vultures. It's a way to cry victimhood. It's a way to like push for the war that you're always that you're always screaming and crying about how you want. Yeah, like do you think Alex Jones genuinely would be distraught? No. Alex Jones sees this as a way to help Alex Jones. How can I utilize this? How can I utilize this for my own personal benefit?
Outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question.
These people just want war so badly. They just are so horny for it. Also, who is they?
We're just going to have to
Who
ask
is
ourselves.
they?
Now, Charlie would want us to put
Rabbi Shmuley already capitalized on it and is asking for money to help protect himself. Yeah. Or like, who's going to use this to distract from Epstein? Who's going to use this to distract from Israel? Who's going to use this as a, as a political cudgel? Who's going to use this in a way that is not at all caring about somebody who they say was a friend, was a colleague, was whatever, caring that person died.
Put as much pressure on these people as possible. Dana nailed it. This is unacceptable and has to stop. And it has to stop now. And everybody's accountable. And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what. The politicians, and the media, and all of these rats out there. This can never happen again. It ends now. Greg's right again. This is a turning point. And we know which direction we're going.
Yeah. You know what? He thought he was clever, I think, using Turning Point. He's like, you see what I did there? Huh? You see what I did there? Turning Point. You get it? Yeah. Turning Point for what? Just more people dying? Is that what it is? Turning Point for more guns because we don't have enough guns already. Turning Point for more people not accessing the healthcare that they need. Like what the turning point of just more sludge is that what it is? Like we're already here, and rather than the turning point of like going in the opposite direction, we just turn into a deeper pit of hell. Oh my God. We are all Charlie Kirk. We are Charlie Kirk. Oh my God. He does not miss his moment.
I was sitting in this parking lot.
He does not miss his moment. Hogan, thank you.
Charlie Kirk was a really sweet person. I first met him back in 2016 at the RNC in Cleveland.
Yeah, never forget Alex Jones was the one who spread all of those lies about the Sandy Hook children and their families. Alex Jones pushed conspiracy theories, really deranged, just evil conspiracy theories.
He was so young. Okay, he'd be like 20-something years old then, so happy, so full of life. He had big plans. He was going to galvanize all the kids on campuses to vote Republican, wake them up to communism. And they killed him today with a high-powered rifle. Classic stuff. It's like crooks in Pennsylvania running around the roof. Nobody's doing anything. And they shot him and killed him. And the left's celebrating it. And all the Democrats calling for violence. Just everything else is just sick filth. But, Charlie Kirk really is a hero and a family man and some.
Yeah, they love to talk about, for people who are always who are always shitting on the trans community, they're always like, right? They're always out here using the pronoun of they. You know, someone who would say that like non-binary is made up. Always talking about this mysterious they.
By that real vision. And the left and the globalists have really screwed up because
the left and the globalists have really screwed up. Also, I cannot watch this whole 6 minutes. I can't. I simply cannot.
Look, there's safety in numbers. And I was honest in videos I posted. I said, I don't do a bunch of public events. I don't go to colleges because I guarantee you, if I went out for a year, 10, 15 events, I'll get shot dead.
Yeah. So it's not hard to figure out who's actually a moral human being and who's not. And I'm telling you, anybody, it's just already, I mean, Alex Jones, duh. No, we know he's a piece of shit. We know he's a piece of shit. But all of these opportunists, all of these slugs that will just use the violent death of Charlie Kirk to, you know, make their little sit in the car videos, do a whole spectacle on Fox and Friends, make sure that any common sense gun legislation that's on the table or that's passed, that we get rid of all that because that's money in their pockets. Yeah, grandstanding on his corpse, right? Because if you actually cared, if you genuinely cared, what you would be doing
The body is still
doing
warm,
everything
and
you
these guys are
can
using
to
his corpse
ensure
like a flashlight to boost their dying careers. It's beyond pathetic.
doing everything you can to ensure that we do not continue throwing fuel on this already massive fire and ensuring that you don't have kids like this. Listen to this guy.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel real because like this never happened to me before, and like I only moved here like a few months ago, and I didn't like think this would happen like so soon.
He just said, I didn't think this would happen so soon. This was about the school shooting at his high school. 3 students, including a shooting suspect, were critically injured in a shooting at a suburban high school in Colorado on Wednesday afternoon. That's today. The shooting took place just before 12:30 p.m. on the grounds of Evergreen High School in Evergreen, Colorado, 30 miles southwest of Denver. The students were taken to an area hospital. Jackie Kelly, a spokeswoman for the sheriff's office,
using his corpse like a flashlight to boost their dying careers. It's beyond pathetic.
Yeah, I know. Said that one of 3 students, a male juvenile, was the shooter, though it was unclear how that person had been shot. The shooter used a revolver in the attack, and that there were reports a 4th person had been transported to the hospital with injuries but could not be verified. The motive for the shooting, what led up to the attack, and whether the victims and the suspect knew one another were all under investigation. The police were looking at the shooter's home, locker, and car as they searched for a possible motive. Like nobody's even talking about this. Many students were inside the school and witnessed the shooting. Yeah, like this kid. Notice how he said, I just moved here and I didn't think this would happen so soon. So do we understand how sick this is? How sick our culture is? That people now, you go into a grocery store, you're worshiping at church, you are attending an event on your campus, you're walking to math class in high school, you are you're getting ready for snack time in elementary school, whatever it is, how there is the looming threat always that today could be the day that somebody decides to just spray bullets into the crowd.
There shouldn't be a thing that happens like nowadays in our society. It just isn't right.
It's not. Why is this kid? Why is this child, this 8th grader, saying what the adults refuse to say? This is a kid.
shouldn't be a thing that happens like nowadays in our society.
This shouldn't be a thing that happens nowadays in our society. Why do the kids have to say it? Why do the kids I remember when I started being a substitute teacher and how part of my training was like, okay, here's what we do for a school shooting. And the way that it was so different from when I remember being in school, we're like, yeah, we definitely would do active shooter drills, but that was 25 years ago, right? Like 25 years ago, very different from the environment now, where it's not just the occasional, oh, here's a little shooting drill alongside, fire evacuation drill. I work at a school and I do more active shooter drills than natural disaster ones. Yeah, like this is these kids' realities. When I was a kid, I didn't have like a conception of living in such a violent society. I didn't have a conception of like what mass shootings were. Because it was not commonplace. It was not normalized. Ugh. Yeah, and then look at these fucking bozos. This is who's running the country. This is who's in charge. These people who profit off of the blood of children, whether in Palestine, the United States, America, wherever else we have our dirty fucking paws. It is fucked up that kids have to worry about being shot in school, that parents have to worry about sending their kids off to school and wondering if they're going to come home. Like one of the images that stuck out to me after the shooting at that Catholic school was there was an image of a mom, and she had taken her ballerina flats off and she's just sprinting down the street. And how now, because this is something that happens all the time, I just think about being a parent and you get the call, you like however you find out, and immediately just your brain going to the worst possible thing. And that for some parents, that is going to be a reality. Yeah, the parents running in to try to save their kids, man. Oh, I know.
Democrats
I know.
own what happened today. I am devastated. My kids have called panicking. All the kids of every conservative in the country.
Really? Democrats own this? Really, Nancy Mace? I wonder how much money Nancy Mace gets from NRA and other pro-gun PACs. Really, the Democrats own this. But see, and this is what I mean by like these people a lot of these people don't really give a shit about. They didn't give a shit about Charlie Kirk. Okay, he's just another opportunity to. He's just another opportunity to like play this card, to be like, it's the Democrats, so don't vote for the Democrats, vote for us, and we'll protect your freedoms. Meanwhile, silence from these monsters when the 2 state reps were targeted and killed. Yeah. What happened with your meeting with the Epstein victims? Why were you crying, Nancy?
Called panicking?
Yeah.
Just because you speak your mind on an issue doesn't mean you get shot.
Then by that logic, do Republicans own the shooting of the 2 Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota?
Political.
Isn't this on both sides?
Are you kidding me?
What do you mean? Are you kidding me? How would this be any different? Also, thank you to that reporter. Thank you to that reporter for asking that question.
We don't know what condition Charlie Kirk is in right now. Some raging leftist lunatic put a bullet through his neck, and you want to talk about Republicans right now? No.
No, I'm asking
not
you.
at all.
You said the
No.
Okay, also, we know who the shooter was. The shooter was of Melissa Horton and her husband and their dog. We know who that shooter was. We know his political ideology. I mean, it's like, oh my God, it doesn't even fucking matter, these people. This is what I mean, though. This is what I mean by it does not matter, because this is the narrative that these fuckers push anyway. And then they use this and fearmonger and pass just even worse policies and ensure that we can't do anything about this.
Oh, this is on. Democrats own this.
But isn't there a problem with political violence across the spectrum?
Yeah, we're talking about Charlie Kirk right now. That's the subject of this that we're talking about right now. Democrats own this 100%. And I'm going to say this.
Oh my God. Oh my God. No, of course they don't care about the shooter, the kids who were shot in Colorado. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. They do not. They do not. Let me see what the Pod Save boys have to say.
Charlie Kirk.
A rare me watching Pod Save America.
Was shot and killed today. Many of you probably already know. He was doing an event at Utah Valley University. About 3,000 people were there, and he was shot. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. And
do we know the motives? As far as my understanding goes, we do not. We don't know who the shooter was. The shooter's at large. The person that they had taken into custody has been released. So there's a literal manhunt underway because there's no one in custody. They don't have information that has been released publicly. There's nothing. There's nothing. So everything that's being said is just purely speculative, and per usual is being done for just the grossest political purposes. It's all narrative spin. Yeah.
Spencer Cox, who is the governor of Utah, gave an update. It appears that they do have a person in custody. And we're just going to throw...
Yeah, and this is, I think, from a couple hours ago. That person has been released, so they have nothing and no one.
To the Spencer Cox clip now.
Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate and former president of the United States, and now current president of the United States. Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken. We mourn with his wife, his children, his family, his friends. We mourn as a nation. If anyone in the sound of my voice...
The other thing, too, is what I will always say is this is just no matter who you are. Okay, please, any person who's listening. What happens is that this stuff makes the rounds on the internet faster than lightning. And a lot of times the wrong person will be identified as the suspect, as the culprit, and that person's life is then ruined. Remember the guy who was accused of being the Trump assassinator. And he was some like random Italian guy who I think he was even in Italy at the time. But it didn't matter because AI photos made the rounds on Facebook and other platforms. And it totally ruined this guy's life. And that was not him at all. And it was just totally made up. Lives get ruined insanely fast just because of how how fast unreliable news is spread. Yes, I know. Assassinator is not a word. It's not a word, but I just made it up. Assassinator. So anyway, whatever you do, always just wait. Wait for actual confirmed information. Like it truly, no matter what your political beliefs are, no matter who you are, like this is just something that too many times, honestly, every single time, it feels like the wrong person gets the spotlight put on them and it's just a bloodbath. It's just totally over. And even people whose intention is not to like send the mob, right, to give, you're not a person who like does death threats online, may still end up sharing that, and it just keeps making the rounds. Straight out the gate, people were saying he's dead in Hassan's chat when it just happened. And I know, like, it just, information flies around. So if there's so much information when something major like this happens, there's so much information. It's flying so fast. Anybody and everybody can just go on the internet and say whatever.
Celebrated even a little bit at the news of this shooting. I would beg you to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere. I don't care what his politics are. I care that he was an American. We desperately need our country. We desperately need leaders in our country.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said he's dead about the suspect. You were talking about people saying he's dead about Charlie Kirk. No, I get that. That's a reasonable, like, if you saw the video, the assumption would be that he was dead. I was talking about, like, I'm specifically talking about misinformation that flies around the internet, that when it pertains to who people think committed the crime, right, did the thing, how so often it's wrong. And it's that the guy who was accused of being Donald Trump's, the person who tried to assassinate Donald Trump, the assassinator, he's probably still having to deal with those falsehoods. Like, that has had repercussions on his life that don't just go away even when the person who did it is found. Because then you have, like, the conspiracy theories, and then anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just something that, as diligent users of the internet, when we talk about not participating in misinformation campaigns, especially when it can result in the wrong person's life being ruined. It's like I talk about this all the time with true crime, with the armchair detectives. They'll go after the wrong person, be like, yeah, I'm a detective and I have come to the conclusion that it's this person. And then that person's life is just over. It's just ruined. But anyway, when we saw the video, yeah, a lot of people's first thought was, it does not look like Charlie Kirk survived this.
But more than the leaders, we just need every single person in this country to think about where we are and where we want to be. To ask ourselves, is this it? Is this what 250 years has wrought on us? I pray that that's not the case. I pray that those who hated what Charlie Kirk stood for.
You even saw in the video where the cops were dragging that guy away, that people were screaming at him. You can see that escalate to violence. Yeah, and how many people are probably already like, no, that was the guy who did it, for sure. For sure. That old guy who had his pants down. I don't know why. Like, oh, no, definitely it's that guy.
Will put down their social media and their pens and pray for his family, and that all of us will try to find a way to stop hating our fellow Americans.
I thought that was quite moving.
Yeah.
And very much agree. And I'm thinking about Charlie Kirk's family, and we've been talking about this today, but, you know, he's got 2 young kids that are like around my kid's age, your kid's age, and it's fucking gutting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an unspeakable, inexcusable, horrific act of violence. And yeah, I don't know Charlie personally. I've never met him, but I saw these pictures of his kids and his wife today, and his kids are exactly the same age and genders as mine. There's this video of his daughter running to him on the set, and it's just like, it's impossible not to imagine like kind of being in his shoes and the loss and the devastation those little kids feel. And so I don't mean to make it about me or personal, but it's just like the political debates were so far away from each other physically and politically, and it's so vicious and cruel and dehumanizing often in the political rhetoric, and just the like.
Yeah, I'm sorry for his children as well. I said before, like, I'm sorry for parents who no longer have kids, and for kids who no longer have parents.
See those kids and to know what this means for them, it's gutting. And
as I also said before, I do notice how many people are, even if they disagreed with Charlie, as they will state, are talking about their sympathies and their empathies here because of his children, and how, I know I will say this until I'm blue in the face, but my God, I wish that could be applied to actual children who are experiencing such violence, not just the kids of adults, not just the, oh, well, that person had children, but like actual children. It just makes your head spin. It does. It makes your head spin.
Yeah, I hadn't seen what Cox had said until now, and he is someone like kind of modeling the kind of leadership you want to see in the wake of something like this. Because
you mean disagreed? What? I don't know what I said. You guys keep in mind too. If I misspeak, I'm trying very hard not to misspeak, because I think it's important. Like, I recognize the way that I cover this is important. Words matter, right? I also have been going since this. I'm going on 13 hours now. This is my 3rd stream of the day. I'm trying hard not to misspeak, but it might happen. And hopefully it doesn't happen in a way that someone's going to like clip it and go, see, look at this evil piece of shit. They're saying he had respectful debates. No, he didn't. Every single debate he had was degrading and bigoted, ended up making fun of the person. Yeah, I'm sorry. Is 25 woke students versus Charlie Kirk, is that a respectful debate? Like, there is no respectful debate just when it comes to Jubilee. It's just impossible. Something existing on the Jubilee platform thereby negates any ability, any way for there to be respect. It's not, this is there. No, what are we talking about? You're doing amazing, sweetie. Thanks. You're covering this with the respect and nuance it requires. Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm trying.
You know, this is a depraved moment in American politics. We see that in the political violence. He runs through some of them. He can't run through all of them. There was the shooting at the CDC. There have been so many. By the way, not included in his litany are mass shootings, which often have at times incomprehensible political motivations, but have political motivations nonetheless. And then these shootings happen, and you end up in this sort of strange and glib cycle of people kind of clamoring for evidence to prove that they can lay the blame at the feet of their political opponents of one kind or another, or you see people decrying all Democrats for this person's act of terrible violence, even as Democrats, elected leaders, are all denouncing it, horrified, I think genuinely shocked and sickened and filled with dread about the kind of downward cycle that this could lead to.
Yeah, I mean, we all learn the news here at the office, and it is, maybe some people on the right don't think this would be the case, but it's been a pretty somber day here because I think in some ways for me personally, like this hits closer to home than, and is more, I'm more shaken by this than I was a Trump assassination attempt, and not just because it was Trump, but like if it had been a Democratic politician, right? Because there's now been several elected officials who've had assassination attempts or been assassinated, and I think it's because now we have political violence in this country that has moved off just elected officials, and now we're getting into people who are activists, who are organizers, who are doing this, and I know that has happened before, and I know that, like you said, there's been political motivation, but it is terrifying, and I think we have to decide, like, before you go on.
I think no, Kithlin, I'm the same way as you. I'm the same way as you as a former, like, not only PSA fan, applied for an internship, got denied. I think the one thing too that feels it feels really strange, or I don't know. It's I think it's because, like, I remember 8 years ago. 8 years ago was the first time I met Charlie Kirk because he was debating Hassan. And Will and I went to go, or it was like 7 years ago. We went to go support Hassan, and they were like two people who were coming up at the same time. Very different political beliefs, right? Opposite ends of the spectrum. But I think the other thing that makes this feel that makes this feel like extra awful, or not extra awful. It's like kind of hard to wrap your head around, is because you just, or like, more real, is because Hassan and Charlie, we're about the same age, coming up in the political world at the same time. Like, I remember being at Politicon, and we were all just like hanging out in the green room before and afterwards, which was also a strange thing, because I was like, I hate this guy. I hate everything he says. Like, why are we all, but yet we're all just here. It's the same green room, and, polite conversation was exchanged. But I think about how this could be, it's one of those that it's like it was Charlie today, but it could have been Hassan, or it could have, I don't know. I don't, like, it is, if I'm being honest, like, and I think this is how Will felt too. And I think it was just, it was hard to believe, not because it's hard to believe that this kind of violence happens, but just seeing how, what if it had been flipped? Or just how, yeah, this was a person that I had met once upon a time, and over the ensuing years, he's only become more influential, and therefore only having a bigger platform to say the things that he says. But it's surreal. I think maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. There is a surrealness to it. I mean, how many people literally joke about people just straight up killing Hassan? Yeah, it's so normalized. And then I started streaming. And in the couple years I've been streaming, you know, I don't have as high of a profile, as big of a spotlight on me as Charlie Kirk or Hassan do. But even still, just my own experience with violent threats, and now the concern going forward of who's this going to happen to next? I don't think that this is something that is only a problem if you are on one side of the political aisle. And that's what's horrible about this. This is not just something where, oh, if you're a leftist, you have to worry about this. Or like if you're on the right, you have to worry about this. This is just this violence, which does not discriminate, and is the same thing when you see Trump supporters who are who voted for Donald Trump, believed that he would make their lives better, and then you see them make a video on Facebook crying and like talking about how they are going to lose their health care, about how their husband is being deported. This violence that's happening to them that they didn't think would happen to them because they thought that, oh, I'm on the right side, right? Oh, this won't happen to me. That's why I voted for this person. And it is a reminder. It's a reminder that it's a reminder that no matter who you are and who you vote for and what you think is the case, you're not safe from this. You're not. And you have to understand that your enemy is not somebody who's in the same position as you. They just happen to have different political beliefs. That if you're a Donald Trump supporter and you've been convinced that your enemy are leftists, like people who are out there protesting, people who are trying to fight against these very violent systems, it's not your enemy. And I think the other thing, too, is that even though Charlie Kirk had more money and more power and influence than the average person, right? Obviously, just even seeing at that event on campus, how many people were there. At the end of the day, Charlie Kirk will also just be used as a pawn. His death will just be used as a pawn to ensure that we protect the status quo. And I think that's important to remember, right? And that's not me telling you That's not me telling you that you have to force empathy for somebody who certainly had no empathy for you, right? Had no empathy for the many people who are suffering and in fact contributed to that. But it's a reminder that whether it was Charlie or somebody else, and again, I hate like the hypothetical of saying if it had been Hassan, it's a pawn for just continuing on as such. Reminds me of this. Horst Wessel was a member of the SA, the paramilitary wing of the Nazi Party, who became a propaganda symbol in Nazi Germany following his murder in 1930 by two members of the Communist Party of Germany. After his death, Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, evil piece of shit, elevated him into a martyr for the Nazi Party. Yes, you're already seeing the word martyr being thrown around. You're already seeing Charlie Kirk being martyred, which is so crazy. He first joined a number of youth groups and extreme right-wing paramilitary groups, but later resigned from them and joined the SA, the original paramilitary wing of the Nazi Party. His funeral was given wide attention in Berlin, with many of the Nazi elite in attendance. After his death, he became a propaganda symbol in Nazi Germany. A march for which he had written the lyrics was named the Horst Wessel Lied and became the official anthem of the Nazi Party. After Adolf Hitler came to national power in 1933, the song became the co-national anthem of Germany, along with the first verse of the previous Deutschlandlied. Yeah, that's a good
on social media.
That's a good parallel. Trump said it in his speech today. He called Charlie a martyr. Yeah. That's the sad and ironic part of this. His death will be used to protect the status quo and be another pawn for the status quo. Right. In the same way that like when Charlie was alive, that was what he did as well. Right. Like there is so much irony because of how he died, what he was saying when he died, what he said while he was alive, how he would have been in this moment doing the same things that these opportunists are doing right now in using his death to just push really just push for more horror. More bloodshed, a victim of his own advocacy. Yeah. The long and short of it is Charlie's a bad person. Political violence is bad. The way that this violence could have been avoided, contrary to Charlie's beliefs, was regulation of the weapons that were used to end his life. Hassan is a good person. The same outcome applies if Hassan was the one at the end of the bullet today. The output's the same, but the input is very different. How would you respond to someone saying that the left is using this death to push political agenda? Well, I think there's like political agenda that is cynical, political agenda that is just more violence in that agenda. And then a political agenda that is seeking like safety, that is seeking a way forward that creates less violence and not more. That, for example, makes it so that we have less of these weapons, which are killing so many people, that makes it harder to obtain them. It's not just that anybody can get one. And in a state like Utah, there's open carry. So who knows how many other people were walking around there with guns. As a reminder, there was not a good guy to stop a bad guy with a gun. So the reason that the reason that things such as healthcare for all and gun safety, common sense gun laws, these are all politicized. They have become major political issues because of how they are used politically. So something that really should be considered a human rights issue gets called a political issue because of how it's framed as, oh, this is politics. Also, how Israel and Palestine is a political issue because it's been treated as such, rather than seeing it as an issue of human rights, severe human rights violations, as, human beings being denied their basic rights. If the idea is just a crazy notion, if I die because of a political issue, then you better make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. Right. And because of the connotations that political agendas and political issues carry, in that, oh, this is not actually something that we can agree on if it's being pushed as a political issue because of political divisions. So Republicans saying, oh, Democrats are trying to, or, the left is trying to politicize this, thereby convincing, sending the message to their supporters, don't listen to them. Don't, what they're doing is evil and bad because they're the bad political side. They act like it's so controversial. But so I don't know if that made sense. I guess it's really about the way that it's like being labeled as a political issue is cynically weaponized so that these lines are drawn in the sand, so that there are the divisions where, because people are so accustomed and trained and treat politics like team sports and are therefore rather than like see something as, oh, this is nonpartisan, right? Like, I think political as far as it's like bipartisan, and therefore if you're on the right, you should automatically think that whatever the left is doing is bad. And then it turns into debate too, rather than there being any actual action taken.
Media and see all the horrific things there. Like, do you want to be part of that? Do you want to add to that? Do you want to make it better, or do you want to make it worse? Because we all have the agency to choose our words carefully. and to decide how we're going to deal with this and to decide how we're going to respond. And if someone responds in a way that's fucking horrific, we can say, okay, I can either engage, or I could say like, all right, that's going to be a horrific response, and I'm going to just do something different.
Right, or choose to just ignore that person's comment or to lift it up. I mean, look, political violence is a cancer, and it will feed off itself, and it will spread, and it will just.
Yeah, so I really think it's as simple as how the words political agenda politicize, of how cynically framed that is. And so people think it's a bad thing. People think like, oh, they hear the word agenda and they go, oh, you're just trying to win an election, or you're just pushing this shit. You're pushing this shit in a disingenuous way. And so I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to agree. Yeah. Like, you're just trying to brainwash me. You don't care. You just have an agenda, right? It's like that word agenda. I have an agenda. Whether it's my agenda for my to-do list that day, or it's my agenda of like what I want to accomplish. What do I want to accomplish in my career? Or it's an agenda of like what issues I think this country faces and how we should be tackling them. I have a quagenda. I do. But it's because that is just framed in that's just framed in this way where it's like, oh, she's evil because she has an agenda. Like the word being so stigmatized
destroy
now.
This country if we're not careful. And once political violence starts, it is very difficult to put that toothpaste back in the tube and stop, especially when there's reprisals. And so I do think it's why it's incumbent on everyone just to try to calm things down. And that's a tall order. It can't just be a responsibility we heap on the Democratic Party right now, although it's nice to see Democrats like trying to fill that space. I had the same reaction to Governor Cox's speech. Like, that was the kind of unifying message we're all used to seeing from a president. Unfortunately, Trump's instinct is not usually to strike that tone, so I'm kind of fearful for where he goes with this. But man, it's scary. I mean, I'm just it's really scary.
Yeah, I was thinking about Trump too, and just you have to separate out the fact that you need sort of universal condemnation, and that it is very good that Democrats of all stripes are coming out and saying that this is wrong, and that we denounce violence against Republicans of any kind, and that there's no justification for any kind of political violence, while at the same time.
What's the deal with meme pages on Instagram and Twitter thinking they need to weigh in on this? So there's this interesting thing that everyone on the internet does, which is they think that they have to talk about everything always. And then on top of that, there's this thing that people do, which is that they feel as if ordinary citizens need to tweet out like politicians. That's another thing I've noticed, is that people will do the classic political, the political statement when they're just a regular person. And you know what I mean? Where it's like, I condemn blah, 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 blah. Hate has no place here. Like, just very quintessential copy and paste political statement. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it's because it's something, especially when it's a really big story, when it's trending, when a lot of people are talking about it, then people feel like, ooh, I need to talk about this. Ooh, I need to get I need to put my take in here if I want to be relevant, if I want to be part of the conversation. Unless it's about genocide in Palestine, then they're not experts. Oh, I couldn't possibly say. I know nothing. Dragons Cars, thank you for the bits. Squad Poco, thank you for the bits. Lana Kaylee, thank you for the 3 months. Suffering Soul, thank you for the 26 months. Living under an admin that is rapidly overtaking our institutions in a fascist movement. Why would we think the political temperature would come down without the fascists stopping their takeover? I don't condone violence. I just think it's a material reading. Why would we think the political temperature would come down? I don't. I don't think doing the liberal way of like when they go low, we go high fixes problems here. I'm not playing Michelle Obama. No. The political temperature isn't coming down until we address the root causes here. Because here's the thing. The rhetoric that people like Charlie Kirk or Trump or whoever the fuck else it is, that does not have the impact, that does not have the influence it has when people's material conditions are better than they are now. That's just the truth. You don't have people who feel desperate, who feel maligned, who feel hopeless, buying into this stuff.
Like being a,
not everyone, but some, then being led down violent paths. That doesn't work as well when you have made things better for people, when they are not so desperate, that say they are looking for the cause of their pain, and then Republicans or whoever else are there, even Democrats too, to point at immigrants and go, there you go. That's why you have problems. I saw somebody. Wait, what did someone say? No justification for political violence is very interesting coming from staffers for the guy who ramped up extrajudicial drone strikes. Yeah, I have my issues. I have my issues with the Pod Save America boys that I have expressed before, especially around just the way that they protect the establishment, the way that I don't think they're as bad as some other liberal influencers, but they certainly have participated in kind of the bullshit around blaming protesters, blaming activists, blaming whoever else except for the Democrats until it's too late. Like the Pod Save guys will get there, but they are always late to the party. They're always late to the party. They'll do the thing where they say what the rest of us have been saying, but it's well after the fact. And you're like, okay, great. Where were you before? I have said too, Tommy, I think is the best of the three. Tommy, I have said in the past, I think of the Pod Johns, I think Tommy's the best of the Pod Johns. This stuff applies to the CEO murder. If our healthcare system wasn't broken, it wouldn't have happened. Right. Where it's like, look, y'all, we saw the way people responded after Brian Thompson, a healthcare CEO, was gunned down. After Luigi Mangione was arrested and charged for his alleged murder. And the fact that the media and that our political class wanted so clearly to ignore all of that and instead just talk about how violent this was and how we're going to bring the hammer down on Luigi Mangione. We're going to get justice for Brian Thompson. And I can't believe that people are screaming, crying, and throwing up that this healthcare CEO was murdered. And anyway, so that happens because the systems are so thoroughly decimated that people may not be the ones who are pulling the trigger, that most, the majority of people might not be the ones pulling the trigger, but they certainly aren't going to shed a tear. And they feel that sentiment that led to somebody pulling somebody physically pulling the trigger. They relate to it, the anger that they have. The only nice thing they could say about Brian was that he was a husband and a father too. Also, the glaring difference between the healthcare CEO and this is that this was clear. That was clearly a class-motivated issue where the media is trying to paint this as a left versus right issue. I mean, they also did that though. Don't forget, like the initial coverage on Brian Thompson being killed, that was also blaming the left. That was also being like, look at these violent leftists. It's safe to say that whenever a public figure is killed, the violent left just gets blamed regardless. And the media wanted to paint that as a left and a right issue because they don't want to address the class issues underneath. KGB Cowboy,
That
thank
in
you,
our
Tier
politics
1.
we have a president who stirs up people and stirs violence and push and does the exact opposite of what someone like Cox does.
And here's the other thing too. Okay, obviously violent rhetoric is bad. We've been talking about how violent rhetoric is bad and it should never be whitewashed and it should never be treated as just this inconsequential thing. Words have meaning, have consequences. But the problem here with, say, the Democrats is how the Democrats will present optically, right, the aesthetics of civility and will not engage in violent rhetoric in the way that, say, Donald Trump does. But when they are still pushing policies and upholding systems that do have such violent consequences for people, that contributes to the anger that a lot of people in this country feel, which is why so many are driven into the arms of someone like Donald Trump, who presents himself as anti-establishment, as like I'm taking them down. No one talks about social murder because it doesn't count as social murder. Nobody talks about political violence when it's anything other than an assassination. But people feel that. And the other thing too is a lot of people can't put words to actions either. They can't somebody who's like somebody who's having a hard time, which is a lot of people, doesn't recognize necessarily that is a form of political violence because that is violence that is coming from our political system that is protected, that is upheld by the state, that is legal, that is built into our policies, into our laws. Nick Torres, thank you for the prime. Prime example is Dave Portnoy. I cannot stand this man. Barstool Sports CEO Dave Portnoy says he hopes a missile hits Greta Thunberg's boat as she sails towards Gaza with aid. I hope they hit a missile on her boat. Knock that boat down. Oh, well, they did. They did aim a missile at the flotilla and hit it. Greta, or whatever her name is. And then today, absolutely disgusting and disturbing video from Charlie Kirk's shooting today, hoping for the best for him and his family. Anybody who's happy about this is a disgusting human. If I had a nickel for every time one of these assholes was just such a hypocrite, had no problem saying horrible things about a young activist who has dedicated her life to making this world a better place in ways that Dave Portnoy could not even imagine. Dave Portnoy can't imagine someone doing something selflessly He cannot imagine someone like Greta being altruistic interactions because he's never done that one time in his life. Bro, and I saw the same thing with Asmongold, right? Asmongold posting about like, oh, that's because all of this violent rhetoric, all of these people who are calling. I'm like, bro, really? Really? You don't get to speak on this.
And kind of fans the flames of this. So even as we say, like, we have to like take politics out of it, like it is an unfortunate part of it that like that even today, like when I found out about this, I saw that Ted Cruz posted a video of people running and inside of his post.
Well, it's because it's not 9/11 yet, and so he's not liking pics of porn. But tomorrow,
Posted said that he was quoted.
Okay. Anyway,
Let's bring in another eyewitness. Joining us now, reporter for the Deseret News, Eva Terry. She was at the event and saw the shooting. Eva, what happened?
Hi. So we were about 3 or 4 rows back. I was there with another reporter from the Deseret News, Emma Pitts. And the question had just come up about how many.
one of the officials literally went, political violence is not the answer. And the very next sentence threatened the shooter by saying, Utah still has the death penalty. Yeah. See, this is what I'm trying to get at, right? This is what I'm trying to get at of how political violence is only political violence when someone whose politics you share is killed. That's political violence then. But nothing else is.
Transgender shooters there had been, and they went back and forth. Charlie Kirk answered once. The student asking a question, he asked something else, and Charlie went to pick up the microphone to answer, and it looked like he was shot in the on the left side of his neck. There was a lot of blood, and he went limp, and he started to fall backwards.
And did you see him? What happened in that immediate moment? He fell backwards. What happened then?
So a lot of the people, because we had been there early since around 9 a.m.
I mean, listen, folks, listen, that's the whole guns don't kill people. People kill people. It's the same thing where they refuse to see guns as a violent weapon, as a means to commit murder. And so instead they'll be like, no. It's people kill people. People kill people. It has nothing to do with the guns. So we shouldn't ban the guns. And that's why they also always try to be like, oh yeah, also they're just mentally ill, while simultaneously like not pushing for mental health care services. Okay, anyway. Anyway, you just start spiraling out. And you're like, ah!
Interviewing lots of people just about the atmosphere. And the audience initially thought it was a firecracker. It was really light sound. And so then something was obviously wrong. Everyone dropped to the ground. And then we ran off, cowered there for about probably 30, 40 seconds. Saw the coast was, well, I don't know if we definitely did not think it was clear, but we ran off to get shelter in another part of the building. We hid under a desk, just contacted our editors.
The university says somebody's in custody. Did you see that person?
So from the people we had talked to earlier, we found them again afterwards, and they had gotten video of the police taking off this man who looked like he was in his probably late 60s, an older man wearing a uniform, and that's who they had took into custody, but we're not sure if he was the person who was shot. I don't think that's confirmed yet.
There's a lot of police activity behind you, a lot of uniformed officers, a lot of people in a military uniform as well. What is happening there on campus right now?
I think they've evacuated all of the students. I talked to another student he was in biology class, and everyone was forced to leave. So they've taken pretty much everyone out. There's a lot. I don't know if you can see all of the stuff going on behind me.
Yeah, I do see that. So campus has been evacuated.
Let me see what AOC said.
What has just transpired is tremendously disturbing. It is the latest evolution and instance of political violence in the United States, and it must end.
Congresswoman, what message do you have to your fellow lawmakers regarding the political environment? What message do you have to your fellow lawmakers regarding the political environment and the rhetoric that has been put?
I feel like pro-Palestine, LGBT, anti-ICE protests will be targeted now in the same way Kirk did. I sure hope things don't get worse. Yeah, I mean, to be clear, it's not great. You have protesters who are being kidnapped. They are being held in God knows where. Their due process rights being violated. Right? We just saw what happened to Mahmoud Khalil. And so it's not that they need an excuse. They're already doing this, but certainly it feels scary. It just does. It feels scary. And it's not a question of, will this happen again? It's just when's the next time? Like, there is no wondering. There is no like, is this going to get bad? It's bad. It's just, how will this get worse? How will this get worse? Who will be targeted next? What, I don't know what the fuck is going to happen. Some Columbia students were taken by ICE and the school doesn't even know if they were actual ICE agents. Yeah, the school's just collaborating with these groups.
You know, beyond rhetoric, we need to talk about action, and we need to talk about, yes, there are words, but most importantly, we are in a job of leadership. We are in a job of action. We are in a role and a position where the American people are looking to us to do something about this. And every single day, people are dying.
Yeah, there were people who were killed at the No Kings protests.
Due to gun violence in America, and every single day there are people in this building that continue to vote against doing anything. They vote against universal background checks. They continue to support legislation and also remove any way to block the mentally ill, to block extremists, to block people with histories and records of domestic violence from getting guns in their hands. So are we going to do something about this or not?
Also, here's the thing. It's not just like gun control in a vacuum. We also need something like healthcare. People need the ability to take care of themselves, to treat whatever is wrong with them, rather than, if, say, they have mental health issues, then that turning into causing harm to themselves or others, or any type of health issues that, well, when you get to a point that it's bankrupting you, it's ruining your life, your family's life, you have no options, you're just driven to, you're at the end of your rope. So having these crucial services available to people, ensuring people's well-being is being taken care of. Do you think that a population that is unstable is going to, do you think a population that actually the stability of said population is being prioritized, people's well-being is being cared for? Do you think that they are going to be turning towards violent tools and weapons as frequently as they do now? No.
We have a political assassination that happened at the same time as a school shooting where children are dying on the same day a week after a shooting at a Catholic school where children were gunned down while praying. Are we going to do something, or are we going to argue over rhetoric? That is my question about this. We have to pass gun safety legislation and stop this.
What one congresswoman was saying, was yelling at Republicans, and it was Democrats' fault. Democrats did this. That's what we're saying.
I mean, people can finger point all they want. Look at the record. Look at the actions of what we are doing. I don't think a single person who has dedicated their entire career to preventing gun safety legislation from getting passed in this House has any right to blame anybody else but themselves for what is happening. We have to stop this. We can stop this. And why don't we start by acknowledging that basic common sense gun safety legislation is not taking away a gun, is not attacking the Second Amendment, but it is about ensuring the safety of our children, of women, of people across this country, to ensure that guns and firearms do not get in the hands of people who are going to use them against human beings, period.
Period. Hi, Caroline. Do you still think it's a good idea to host the World Cup? I don't think it's a good idea for Los Angeles to have the Olympics. I mean, that's for reasons though outside of the news that happened today. Like, for a lot of reasons, Los Angeles should not host the Olympics. Bad Bunny, yeah. Bad Bunny is not touring the U.S. because of ICE. Bad Bunny says he didn't include U.S. in tour dates due to fear of ICE raids. He explained that he did for fear that ICE could be outside my concert. There are many reasons why I didn't show up, and none of them were out of hate. I've performed there many times. All of the shows have been successful. All of them have been magnificent. I've enjoyed connecting with Latinos who have lived in the U.S., but specifically for residency here in Puerto Rico, when we are an unincorporated territory of the U.S., people from the U.S. could come here to see my show. Latinos and Puerto Ricans of the United States could also travel here or to any part of the world. But there was the issue of like fucking ICE outside of my concert, and it's something that we were talking about and very concerned about. The Puerto Rico native has been vocal about ICE over the past few months, sharing footage of an ICE arrest on social media in June that appeared to show agents detaining people in the street. Look, those motherfuckers are in these cars, RAV4s. They're here in Pontezuela, sons of bitches, instead of leaving the people alone and working here. So, yeah, so I think it's like, really, is this what we have to offer people? Yay, the World Cup. Wow, we're hosting the 2026 FIFA World Cup. There you go. Isn't your life so much better? Problem solved. I mean, there have been athletes already who have been deported from the U.S., like people's visas being rejected, people being deported. So that's the environment that we're in. And I think what has to happen, honestly, is the rest of the world further isolates the United States, which already we've been on that path. Like we have been losing power. We've been losing our PR is not great. Let's just say our PR is not great. And in the same way that like Israel is becoming more isolated on the international stage, which is then in turn also bad for us because we are arm in arm with Israel. And that's another reason that people have been turning against Israel. Our PR hasn't been good, but it's in the dirt these days.
Domestic violence is one of the highest indicators of whether a person is going to kill someone else with a gun or not. There are so many other indicators, and I think it is so deeply important that when a politician tries to blame words for in action, they need to look at their action and their record. We, like, enough of this. This is horrific. This is awful. And the assassination of Charlie Kirk risks an uncorking of political chaos and violence that we cannot risk in America. We cannot risk it. Congressman,
given
thank
the
you.
political temperature, are you worried about holding events in public now?
I think that, of course, it's a natural consequence to see this and to be worried about this. And I think, you know, but what is most important is the fact that we've gotten to this place, and we need to figure out what we can do to ensure that every American can feel safe going to a public event. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's what I was trying to say too, is looking at how we got to this place. Looking at how we got to this place and where we go from here, because continuing on this path, it's only bad. It's only bad and only getting worse because of how it's always bad. You can't get better. You want to know the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing and expecting to get a different result than from the first time, even though you've changed nothing. Maybe you call out the mentally ill supporters, like in this chat. All right, Quantaraj. All right, Quanunis. Who in here is mentally ill? I have to call you out. Who's a mentally ill supporter of me, Caroline Kwan, your streamer? Damn me, sorry. You might be mentally ill. I'm not, but you can go ahead and think that. Plus, you know that being mentally ill is not what the problem is. There's a lot of people who have mental illness. I'm neurodivergent or something. I don't know. Hogan, thank you for the gifted to mentally ill. Swim fellow, thank you for the prime. Nick Torres, thank you for the prime. Vio, thank you for the trade.
Summoned. Hello.
Vio has been summoned. I said, raise your hand if you're mentally ill. Vio comes in here, is like, hi. Hello. Maybe I will find out that this was just all a figment of my imagination. That none of this was real. Also, I'm taking these off. I'm over these. I'm done. Says a woman talking to a camera. I know. In an empty room. Yeah, that's true. Maybe none of this is real. Permission to hit the crack pipe, Big C? Yeah, but only if you share with the class. I can't imagine someone not having a little mental illness these days. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it feels like induced mental illness. Our brains were made together, berries and hunt, and now we're dealing with a constant onslaught of horrible information every day. Yeah. I know. Y'all, I honestly feel like I need to take a break from talking about this. It's been 3 hours straight. And I think I'm hitting a little bit of my limit. There's really not much more to say. I don't know. I mean, what have I not said? And then what have I not said again and again and again and again? And what I want to, I guess, wrap up by telling you all is please keep yourselves safe. Please keep your community safe. Please watch out for one another. I always try to stay away from being like, I know I'm a theater kid, but I also try not to be like really dramatic and hyperbolic with serious things. But these are serious times. And so I do want you to look out for yourselves and for the people around you. And just certain things as well, you know, keep it in the GC, keep it in the group chat. Thanks for talking about it. You are appreciated. Tell my friends and family the same thing this
I've
evening.
been summoned. Hello.
I love the delayed alerts. And I think something that always helps me is seeing my community, right? All these people, with the exception of weirdos who come in here and say stupid shit. And then usually they'll get banned. If they don't get banned, they haven't gotten banned yet. But otherwise, you know, there's a lot of people in here, people in our Discord, a lot of people who they feel like we all feel the same thing. We're not alone in feeling so fucking sick and tired of this shit. And I think the other thing too to remember is that you are a human being unless you're a bot in here, and then you're not a human being, but otherwise you're a human being. And so a lot of people will have takes and will try and tell you how you should feel and how you should react and what you should say. And I think it's always good and normal to react in a very human way. And you shouldn't let anybody take that from you. You shouldn't feel badly for reacting as a human being because somebody on Twitter is like tweeting something, right? I think you have to look, it is, as we say, it is no measure of health.
Oh, a year. Good
to
time,
be
lady.
well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And I really think it's not a matter of, okay, well, whatever my politics are, then I have to react. Then I have to react exactly like this. We are human beings. Does me being a human being also include seeing the irony in what happened? Yeah, all of it. All of it. All of it. What I'm trying to say is when you see something like that, and as a human being feeling really disturbed, right? Like whatever the other stuff, okay? All the other stuff like the irony, everything else you might think, that it doesn't cancel out, or it doesn't mean that like you cannot have a initial reaction of it being very viscerally disturbing and feeling sick by it. So anyway, just a reminder that as human beings, we feel a lot of things and we have a lot of thoughts, and you go onto the internet and a lot of people will say things in a way that it's very almost authoritative. almost authoritative. And I will never shame you for feeling like a human being. I will never shame you for reacting in a human way. I just had this conversation with Cutie as well. I had this conversation with Cutie, and I said to her, I was like, you care about things because that's a reminder of your humanity, and you don't want to lose that. Don't ever say like, oh, I wish I wasn't so sensitive. Oh, I wish I didn't care about stuff so much, because I think that's when you die inside. I think that's when you stop being, I think that's when you start losing your humanity. And obviously, like, there's ways to handle if you're like, oh, I don't like how I communicate, or I don't like how I this and that. But at your core, feeling all this stuff and not being apathetic and caring very deeply, I think that's all important. And I don't think you want to lose that. And I don't think that it's okay. I don't think being a person who just becomes either just so desensitized to all this stuff, or you just don't care for whatever reason. I really think at the end of the day, it's so important to hold on to your humanity, So everyone, yeah, and again, people will misread you. They will, whether intentionally or not. Fuck that. Okay, fuck that. Everyone's gonna say everything. Everyone is gonna say everything. They're like, oh, so you loved Charlie Kirk. Oh, so it turns out that you're actually right wing. Oh, it looks like you're doing the when they go low, whatever. Everyone is going to say whatever the fuck they want. And that's the internet. That is the internet. And yes, talk to your friends about something silly. Consume this stuff in moderation. Always keep your empathy, because it's not about what other people are doing. It's about you. It's like in our lives, in our individual lives, we have to lead with our individual values and not what everyone else is doing and not how everyone else is responding. And anyway. I don't know. I hope that made sense. I hope that made sense, because if you're feeling badly, if you're like, man, I saw that video and that really disturbed me, but I feel like I'm not allowed to be disturbed because because of all these other things. I guess I'm just trying to tell you that it's perfectly normal, and it is okay as a human being who watched something like that to feel disturbed by what you saw, despite everything else. Okay. All right. Well, God, you know what? I'm pretty cooked. I am pretty cooked. So I think I'm going to end stream. I'm sorry. I just feel like if I get into Cobblemon, it will be another late night, and I genuinely just need to rest. Another long day tomorrow. Got to figure out just some stuff about the wedding this weekend. So I'm going to go take care of that. I hope that what I left you with here is maybe not total despair. I never want to leave you in just total despair. I never want to leave you in total despair, ever. So that being said, tomorrow I will be live again for the next Progressive finals, the real finals. I won't be live tomorrow night. My plan is to go live Friday morning and then go out of town. Tell our boy happy birthday. It is Farley's birthday, so what I would love to request is Farley photos in the Discord. Farley's birthday is tomorrow, 9/11. do not forget, tomorrow is Farley's birthday. So would love, we have a hashtag Fur Babies channel. Any Farley art you have, any pictures of your pets, let's just get that channel going. Let's get some cute stuff. Let's get some cute stuff in that channel. Okay, because I'm telling you now too, the Charlie Kirk news, this is going to be going on for a bit. It is not just something that's happening today. This will be ongoing, plus everything else. So let's get some cuteness into our world here. Okay. All right. Okay, I desperately need a shower, so I am going to go shower. I'm going to send you guys to Will. Okay, that's it. That's all I got for you. That's all I got. Truly, I am not saying this with any sassafras. All peace and love. Peace and love to you all. Always. Always peace and love. Even people who piss me off. Peace and love. Take care of yourselves. And I hope to see you next time.